Statement of myself, James Thurber, regarding the disappearance of former acquaintance and fellow artist Richard Pickman. All quotations are roughly paraphrased. Statement begins. Now I will have you know I'm no prude. Morbid art doesn't shock me, and when a man had the utter genius Pickman had, I feel it an honor to know him, no matter what direction his work took. I met him sometime in the spring. I believe he had moved from New York some weeks prior. We started talking more and more when one evening he hinted that if I could keep quiet and hold my stomach, he might show me something rather unusual, something a bit stronger than anything of his work he had shown me previous. He said he really let himself go. Maybe it was some kind of Stockholm syndrome I held to his art, but I accepted. He insisted he'd drive me there, and in the inky blackness of the night, through all the twists and turns of the unnamed city, I lost myself. We eventually ended up in an unmarked cellar. Now I'm what one would call fairly hard-boiled, but I'll confess that what I saw on the walls of that room sunk my stomach to the floor. He was right when he said he had let himself go. There's no use in my trying to tell you what they were like, because the awful, the blasphemous horror, and the unbelievable loathsomeness and moral failure came from simple touches quite beyond the power of words to classify. It was the faces, those goddamned faces that leered and slavered out of the canvas. By God, man, I barely believed they were alive. The unfinished pictures on easels or propped against the walls were as ghastly as the finished ones he's texted me, and shewed the painstaking methods of the artist. Scenes were blocked out with extreme care, and penciled guidelines told of the minute exactitude which Pickman used in getting the right perspective and proportions. I noticed a large camera sat on a lone table, and Pickman told me that he used it in taking scenes for backgrounds, so that he might paint them from photographs in the studio instead of carting his supplies around the town for this or that view. There was something very disturbing about the nauseous sketches and half-finished monstrosities that leered around from every side of the room, looming arcane blasphemous silhouettes on the horizon of an oceanscape, dead chickens and severed hands, things that looked almost human. And when Pickman suddenly unveiled a huge canvas on the side away from the light, it took everything I had not to break down. But damn it all, it wasn't even the chunks bitten out from her neck, her visible bone peering out from her upper arm the way blood poured from her neck as that inhuman monstrosity devoured her. It was the technique. The cursed, the impious, the unnatural technique. As I'm a living being, I never elsewhere saw the actual breath of life so fused into a canvas. The monster was there, and I knew that only a suspension of nature's laws could ever let a man paint a thing like that without a model, without some glimpse of the netherworld which no mortal unsouled to Satan himself has ever had. Pinned with a thumbtack to a vacant part of the canvas was a piece of paper now badly curled up. Probably... rat problem. Well, that was the end of the night's adventure. Pickman had promised to show me his place, and heaven knows he had done it. Reaching into my jacket pocket the next day, I noticed I had taken a souvenir of sorts. You know, the curled up paper tacked to that frightful canvas in the cellar. The thing I thought was a photograph of some scene he meant to use as a background for that monster. It seems I had vacantly crumpled it into my pocket. Yes, that paper was the reason I dropped Pickman. Don't ask me to explain or even conjecture about what I burned. Don't ask me either what lay behind that scrambling Pickman was so keen to pass off as rats. You know how damned lifelike Pickman's paintings were, how we all wondered where he got those faces. Well, that paper wasn't a photograph of any background after all. What it showed was simply the monstrous being he was painting on that awful canvas. It was the model he was using. But by God, it was real. Thinking back, there was a little slip of paper in the corner of all his works. All of it was real. You're not safe in your house. You're not safe on the street, in your basement, not safe in numbers, not safe anywhere. Listen to me closely when I say monsters are real, and they were here long before we were, and they're responsible for every strange happening, every unexplainable missing person, every animal attack in the night. But thanks to my hands, there's one less monster in this world, lying dead in the middle of nowhere. I pray God will forgive me. I can't bear to live in this world any longer.